The death of the American dream. Picture this. It's the mid-20th century. Your grandfather heads to the local factory with nothing but a high school diploma and a union card. He manages to buy a modest two-bedroom house for just 2 to 3 times his annual income. In the 1950s, the median home price in the U.S. was $7,400, while the median household income was $3,300. The American dream was an achievable reality. Now, wake up. The year is 2026. You have a master's degree, a dazzling LinkedIn profile, and you're genuinely wondering, if I sell a kidney, will it cover the down payment? Today, to buy an average home in the U.S., you need to earn between $100,000 and $120,000 a year. Yet, the national median household income is just $75,000. The median home price has climbed to $400,000, and mortgage rates are hovering around the 7% mark. America is currently gripped by a housing affordability crisis exceeding $1.7 trillion. Pour yourself a cheap drink because rent is due, and it's time to examine exactly who turned this dream into a nightmare. Number 1. The supply drought and the golden handcuffs. When your grandfather bought his home in 1950, developers were throwing up houses just about anywhere they could find land. Today, the market has turned into a cage match. The first and biggest issue: we ran out of houses. The subprime mortgage crash of the 2008 financial crisis wiped out homebuilders. Those who survived became deeply risk-averse, building far too few homes relative to population growth for over a decade. According to data from Freddie Mac and the National Association of Realtors, NAR, the U.S. housing shortage sits somewhere between 3.5 million and 7 million homes. The second ingredient added to this poison is the golden handcuffs, the lock-in effect. Meet John. John bought his house in 2021 before rates spiked, locking in a 30-year mortgage at 2.8%. His monthly payment is $600. If John wanted to move today, the monthly payment for an identically priced home at today's 7% interest rate would be $3,000. Will John move? Absolutely not. He's going to grow old right where he is. When the Fed raised interest rates to fight inflation, home prices should have dropped. But they didn't, because while demand weakened, supply evaporated entirely. Instead of 8 buyers competing, there are 4, but there is only one house on the market. Prices refuse to budge. Homes that cost 2 to 3 times the average household income in the 1950s now cost 5 to 6 times that income today, and up to 10 times in New York and Los Angeles. 2. Wall Street, the piranhas in the shallows. Conspiracy theorists claim BlackRock is buying up all the houses, while fact-checking sites correct them, stating institutional investors own only 3% of homes. Both are right, but that 3% is a massive illusion. Piranhas only occupy 1% of a river. But if they are swimming at the exact shore you are wading in, the statistic ceases to matter. Institutional giants, like Invitation Homes, Tricon, etc., do not distribute their purchases evenly across the country. They target entry-level single-family homes in fast-growing Sunbelt metros like Atlanta, Phoenix, and Charlotte. In these specific markets, they have accounted for 20% to 30% of all sales during certain periods. Cash is king. You line up with your $350,000 mortgage pre-approval letter and a heartfelt, "We want to raise a family here" note. Then a Wall Street representative calls, $380,000, all cash, no contingencies, closing in 7 days. You lost the deed before you even started. According to a MetLife report, corporations could control 40% of single-family rental homes by 2030. The goal isn't to flip houses, it's to build a permanent renter society where corporations hold the equity and families remain lifelong tenants. In investor meetings, they don't talk about shelter. they talk about rent growth and algorithmic optimization. Politicians have introduced bills like the Stop Hedge Funds from Dominating Housing Act, but financial lobbies quickly watered them down in the corridors of Congress. While you cut back on fast food, you are fighting against algorithms and multi-billion-dollar balance sheets. 3. The myth of the boomer silver tsunami. For years, millennials and Gen Z were fed a fairy tale. When the baby boomer generation ages, they will sell 42 million homes, flooding the market and crashing prices. We went down to the shore and stared at the horizon, but the tsunami never formed. Instead of selling, boomers are aging in place. Why? Because 54% of boomers own their homes free and clear. They have zero mortgage debt. Why would 80-year-old Ely move? Even if Ely sold her home for $600,000, a modest two-bedroom apartment in her area costs $500,000. After real estate commissions and moving expenses, she would be left with less space and a net zero budget. Furthermore, assisted living costs can run up to $90,000 a year. Staying home, utilizing online grocery delivery and telemedicine, is vastly cheaper. Tax policy also plays a massive role. If Ely sells her home while alive, she faces hefty capital gains taxes. But if she passes away, the house is inherited by her children with a stepped-up basis, meaning they get it at current market value, tax-free. The result, the average tenure of a homeowner in the U.S. has skyrocketed from 6 years to over 13 years. Homes are no longer circulating in the market. They have become retirement vaults. 4. The barbell market and Zoom towns. If existing homes aren't available, we should just build new ones, right? In the 1970s, 40% of newly constructed homes were small, affordable starter homes. Today, that figure is below 7%. Builders aren't doing this because they are comic book villains. They are turning to luxury housing because the economics of building cheap homes have collapsed. Land and zoning, strict zoning laws, and not in my backyard, NIMBY lobbies make finding land incredibly difficult and expensive. Permits and regulation. Permits, impact fees, and environmental studies account for 20% to 30% of a home's price before a single nail is driven. These fixed costs don't shrink just because the house gets smaller. Labor and materials, post-pandemic wages for contractors, and the costs of concrete and timber have permanently spiked. Instead of making a $20,000 profit on a starter home, a developer adds a bit more square footage, throws in some luxury finishes, sells it for double the price on the exact same plot of land, and walks away with a six-figure profit. What remains is a barbell market with no middle ground, just ultra-luxury properties on one end and aging rentals on the other. To make matters worse, entire new neighborhoods are being built under the build-to-rent (BTR) model, constructed specifically to be sold directly to corporations. Add to this the pandemic-era migration. High-earning remote tech workers fled San Francisco and parachuted into towns like Boise, Austin, and Bozeman. These places became known as Zoom towns. Engineers earning $250,000 a year, who had just sold their California properties for $1.5 million, entered markets where a local teacher used to buy a home for $250,000. Unaware of local market norms, these transplants threw down cash offers $100,000 over asking price, driving local home prices up by 60%. Today, with corporate return-to-office mandates, many of those engineers are trying to sell. However, the local population can no longer afford these hyperinflated prices. Liquidity has dried up. We didn't solve the housing crisis by moving. We just exported it to rural America. 5. Insurance apocalypse and the house poor. Even if you manage to overcome all these hurdles, you face the insurance apocalypse. In states like Florida and California, Major insurance providers are pulling out of the market entirely due to recurring hurricanes and wildfires. Annual homeowners insurance premiums have quadrupled in some areas. Banks require active home insurance to maintain a mortgage. If you can't find coverage, the bank forces its own punitive, high-cost insurance policy onto you, doubling your monthly payment. People aren't losing their homes because they lost their jobs. They are going under because they cannot get the property insured. Say you beat the odds and find a standard home built in 1980. The HGTV home renovation myth of, "we can fix this up for $30,000 dies the moment you move in. Today, a basic kitchen remodel costs $80,000. Moreover, the second you tear down a wall, you run into uninsurable, outdated aluminum wiring and collapsed cast iron sewage pipes. The American dream didn't just vanish, it was systematically dismantled. It was choked by a supply drought and buried under corporate capital. If there's any consolation in this, it is this: you are not crazy, you are not lazy, you are not a failure. Relative to income, you are navigating the most hostile housing market since the Great Depression. Previous generations did not win because they were smarter or worked harder. They simply played a game that was infinitely easier. The worst thing you can do is internalize a systemic failure as a personal flaw. The system was designed to lock you out. If you don't own a home, stop blaming yourself. It's not you, it's the market.